So I don't like most puzzles in TTRPGs because, well, I'll get into that. But I do want to say that there are some puzzle-like encounters that I do like, and I'll be going over how to make those and avoid the ones that I don't like. So in order to do this, we are of course going to have rating systems. So I'm going to rate each puzzle in these 5 criteria. And you can see what they mean down here. So verisimilitude is basically how reasonable is this to occur in the world. Difficulty, I think the optimal difficulty for a puzzle is there's one logical leap that anyone can come to, and then the rest should satisfyingly just fall into place after that. You figure out the rough logic, then you just solve it, and you're all good. Incentive, it shouldn't stop the adventure completely, but there should be an incentive for wanting to do it. Because, the thing about puzzles is your players might not solve them, and if your entire adventure halts, if they cannot solve the puzzle, that's a problem. Because you cannot count on your players knowing the solution to the puzzle. Interactivity. It should let all the players interact with it, not just the ones that have spent a lot of time watching TED Ed videos on riddles. And it should feel Pathfinder or feel D&D. It should feel like the system you are coming from. And so I believe that in order for a puzzle to feel like it belongs in the game, it should somehow interface with the game's rules. And so, as an example of a puzzle I don't particularly like, I'm going to go over the beginner box coin puzzle. And I'm just going to summarize the setup here because in the actual book, this puzzle is like a full page. So I'm just going to give the rough summary. You're presented 9 coins, and there's a statue of a god of wealth that will weigh which hand has more value in it. One of the coins is a fake. The party is tasked to figure out which coin is fake. They only have 2 uses of the scale before the puzzle automatically resets. Trying to remove the coins automatically resets the puzzle. The coins feel completely identical, no perception checking. You are purely playing the puzzle with the puzzle's mechanics. And then the solution is, you just think, okay, split all the coins out evenly. Measure 3 versus 3. And if this one is said to weigh less, well, you know that the fake coin is one of those 3. If both are equal, you then know that on the bench, you have the 3 coins, where one is a fake. And then you weigh each set of that 3 coins against each other, and then you can determine from just 2 ways, guaranteed you know which coin is correct. So, now let's talk about how it fits on each of these scales. In terms of verisimilitude, I'm going to say this is like a 0.5 out of 5. Yeah, it's tied into the statue of a god, but that doesn't make sense to be in a dungeon underneath a fishing town. So, it also stretches the imagination by saying, oh, all the coins weigh exactly the same, they look exactly the same. So there's no cheesing it with perception. If it was, they look really, really similar, DC 30 perception, I would probably bump its verisimilitude half a point. But the entire thing is very contrived in a lot of ways. Not being able to run away with the coins before you solve the puzzle also feels very contrived. It automatically resetting feels very contrived. So it gets a 0.5 out of 5 for feeling like it makes sense in the world. Difficulty? This is exactly the difficulty I think a puzzle should be. Truly. Maybe 4.5 out of 5, but I really would only dock it because of the other categories. I think in terms of mechanically, as a puzzle, this is really well constructed. There's one big logical leap. Put all the coins in different buckets that we always gain good information. So, that, on its own, means the difficulty is exactly where you'd want it to be for a normal puzzle. It breaks up the gameplay, it makes you think a little bit, you come up with the good idea, and it just works. Your incentive to doing this is a couple gold coins and make the next encounter a little bit easier, which is fine. I'd rather it be something a little bit more impactful than disabling a couple hazards in the next room that are whatever. Interactivity. All the players can suggest solutions, but truly, you just have the one person that is the most familiar with general riddles and logic puzzles do the entire puzzle. So I'm going to give this a 2 out of 5. And for feeling like Pathfinder, yeah, it ties into the God Pantheon, but it really doesn't do anything else. You don't interact with your character sheet at all. I might give it a 1 out of 5. But like, you can see I have low scores across the board, and I think a lot of traditional puzzle setups will look like this, where verisimilitude makes 0 sense. It doesn't interact with the character sheets very much. And in terms of like the interactivity that you get from the rest of the group, it's really just the one person that's good at solving riddles. Doesn't matter if they're playing barbarian. They know how to solve riddle good, so they're going to be the lead in solving the puzzle. And everybody else may just sit around and watch if they're not as comfortable with that. And I think that's not very fun. And the incentive, in the module, it's not exactly clear why they're doing this, other than the 8 gold pieces, which is like, fine. So, overall, I'd say this is an above average normal puzzle, but I still don't like it. So now what do I do for my puzzles? So my idea of a good puzzle is you have your level 1 party, there's a path to the next area, but the bridge has fallen out, leaving a 20-foot long gap across a ravine that goes 30 feet down. What do? And so, is this a thing that could actually happen in the world? Yeah, bridges fall down. I totally believe that. The difficulty, you just come up with one good solution, then you execute it. So difficulty is perfect. Incentive, very clear why you'd go across. And you can find another way around, so you can avoid the puzzle, but it's clear that takes a lot of time. So, the incentive is a pretty high number. Interactivity, I'm going to say it's a 3 out of 5. Still, it's not exactly obvious how every player could get involved in actually solving it, but, you know. And for feeling Pathfinder, if you look at the actual solutions I have here, have a jumping character try to leap across and tie a rope. And then if they fail that skill check, they'd fall down to the pit, take some fall damage. Which is a bit harmful, but that is a solution that is still like reasonable to try. And the risk there is obvious, and the players can do that, or they can choose to take a bit more time, climb down and climb back up the ravine, and then have a rope to then let other characters get across easier by using ropes. Or they can try and bypass it by finding another way across, so there are several solutions depending on what the players value. And the character sheets matter with things like your athletics, whether you have ropes, do you have the jump spell? All of those types of things matter. Your character sheets still matter. So it feels like you are still playing the game. This is my idea of a good puzzle. Because it isn't a puzzle room that you then need to solve in order to continue the adventure. It's a situation that requires creative thinking. And that's the big distinction here. I don't like puzzles, but I like things that require creative thinking. Because I think that most traditional puzzles fail on verisimilitude, interactivity, and whether or not feels like the game system still. But I have other puzzles here. People say that ravine puzzle doesn't work at high levels because players will just cast fly and go over it. Which, yeah, sure. But now, let's say you're bring back something that is of high value, like a massive painting. And then the bridge is out, and let's say the bridge is over a longer gap. Suddenly, figuring out how to get the painting across without damaging the painting is a major task. And that then requires the same creative thinking that was happening at level 1. This is a bit more contrived, because you need to give them this big art object that doesn't fit in a bag of holding, but theoretically, this is still the same type of puzzle, showing up at high levels and still being relevant. Fly spells can still solve it, but like, magic solving problems is like perfectly fine, in my opinion. And then, there are even some things that are not pure exploration, like this situation. Your lower level NPC friend was attacked by bandits, and they want your help to like get their stuff back. So then the party needs to use all their ideas use their creativity, use their character sheets to try and gather information on this bandit gang and try to figure out where they took the stuff, what's happening, and then this is like the starting point of another adventure. This is another way to get creative thinking involved without just having a room for puzzles. Anyway, this is how I think puzzles should be approached in these games, and I'm now going to try and post a video every Tuesday, and I may try and get a better webcam because the quality is annoying me. So, if you want to see all that stuff, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.